find faith today with inspiration in a loving, caring, and unique way. Rabbi Brody.
Thank you, Lazer, and thanks, Gedalia. We're able to say Shechianu, not only on the berries that Lazer gave never ate, but Gedalia, we haven't seen each other in 2 years, and able to say Shechianu. And I see beloved friends, church brothers and sisters also haven't seen because of COVID. We were grounded, but now we're back down. Down but not out. We're back in the air now. And Baruch Hashem, Shechianu for everyone. Shechianu to Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, that we're in Staten Island tonight. Shechianu for Chazak, for Rabbi Eboff and everything they do. And I want to thank everyone that had a hand, a finger, a little bit of desire in organizing tonight. Thank you very much. And Baruch Hashem, it's a big reward for everyone that came, all of us learning together, getting close to Hashem. And in Shemayim, we say, what is going on in Staten Island? All this emunah, all this joy, all this chazak. Tonight, we're going to speak about finding true happiness. If you haven't been happy up till now, okay, remember this date. Remember this date. This is before the 13th of Cheshvan. Okay, this is the last unhappy day of your life. Okay? This is the last. Now, from now, it all goes up. It all goes up. You ready? And I'm going to prove it to you. But to get us ready for it, I'm going to take a little bit of a Arizal and mix it with some Zohar and the famous 3-volume book called Gesher HaChaim by Rav Tuchachinsky. It's a classic book that says what goes on after death. People that don't have emunah, they say, you don't know what's going on in the afterlife. Oh, don't mess around with Hashem. In Israel, we just had elections. And there's this party, this left-wing party called Meretz. And they said before the election, they told the people, there's no Hashem. So a voice came out in Shemayim. They've been in the government for 30 years. There's no Meretz. And they didn't make the threshold. They're out. Okay, don't mess with Hashem. Okay, there is Hashem, and Hashem's alive and well. Hashem did, does, and will do everything, and Hashem is not retired playing golf at Palm Springs. Okay, Hashem is right here with us, but we don't know. So what happens in the afterlife? Let's take a view of the afterlife as if we're seeing a movie in 2022. Okay, you go up to the heavenly court, and the heavenly court is like a movie theater, and it's your life. You've left after 120 years and 2 days. Why 120 years and 2 days? Because Hashem loves you. He don't want you to die on your birthday. Okay, so we don't bless people 120 so 2 days. Okay, the day after, have a nice birthday party. All right, after 120 years and 2 days, you go up to the heavenly court. And you sit up here, and there's the heavenly tribunal up in the balcony, and in the audience, wow, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, all your loved ones, and the tzaddikim, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, they're all there, and all the way down, the tzaddikim are great-grandparents. And they show, they show on the screen behind you, the room becomes completely dark, you can't see the neshamas, because you're a newcomer, a newbie upstairs, and you're not yet, you're just before your trial. Your trial is now at the start, and they turn you around, you're like in a straitjacket, you can't move. And the chair swivels, and you're forced to look at a movie of your life. That is very, very embarrassing. Now here, the good news is what's get edited out, the non-desirable things that a person did tshuva for. If someone did tshuva for, Hashem, we don't let that come in. They did tshuva for. But there are things that maybe we forgot to do tshuva. How does a person forget to do tshuva? We know if a person does, the body, there's bodily hygiene is taking a shower every day. There's spiritual hygiene, cleaning the neshama. One of the prerequisites of being happy is to have a clean neshama. Now, how do we clean our neshama every day? We give a spiritual shower every day. And what's a spiritual shower every day? We go to Hashem, and Hashem, I messed up on A, B, C, and D. Okay, but very simple. It's called the scar treatment. A transgression puts a scar on the soul. And just like they have scratched windows, if a window is clear, it's translucent. Divine light comes through it. Sunlight comes through it. The soul, when it's scarred, it loses divine light. When you do a scar treatment, the light comes in. What's a scar treatment? Very easy. S, let's stop the bad behavior. C, confess to Hashem. A, apologize. Hashem, I don't know what got into me. And R, resolve to do better. Now, we can't promise Hashem we're going to do better because He alone did that. We'll do everything. And Hashem is not going to fault us, but Hashem is going to ask us, why did you not ask for my help? Why did you ask for my help? So ask Hashem to do better. Because this we do every day. And this right away, we speak to Hashem every single day, and we have a smile on our face because we have no, according to Kabbalah, there's no dinim, there's no stern judgments. We clean ourselves up every day. So we have a smile on our face. But a person that forgets about what he or she did wrong, this is outstanding. It's like a debt, an unpaid debt at the store, or a credit card debt. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And these dinim, these debts, they manifest themselves in all kinds of troubles. And they bring us down, and we become unhappy. Hold it. We're back in the heavenly court. We're watching the movie. And the first movie, you get to see two movies. The first movie you see in your life. Ooh, is that embarrassing. It shows in the movie what you said behind closed doors, what you didn't think anybody heard, what you did behind closed doors, what you think no one could see. And think, well, maybe Hashem didn't see. Hashem can't see here. Heaven forbid Hashem. Everything is right there. And if you don't believe that every single detail is in that movie, do you believe in Google search? Do you believe that you can type in anything you want to find in the world and it's right there? Is Google search is more powerful than Hashem? Who gave us Google? Hashem gave us Google search. In fact, Moses, he knew all about that. But Moses preferred to learn Chavrusa with Hashem and 40 days and 40 nights, 3 different times, and not mess around with high tech. That's just technicality. No, this is spirituality is much higher. So you see that first movie. The first movie is painful enough. It's embarrassing. The second movie is even worse. The second movie, you know what the fire of purgatory is? People think that there's a big fiery furnace like the one that Nimrod threw Avram Avinu in this fiery furnace that's 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. No. Have you ever been really embarrassed and your face changes colors? What's it feel like, a fire in your face? It's on fire? That's what happens in the second movie. Now they show you the second movie. The second movie is what you could have done if you lived your life with happiness. They say, well, you live my life with happiness. They said, oh yeah, they showed the great people lived their life in happiness. And they were so productive and so positive and such achievers and so charismatic. And they did so much. Rabbi Nachman, look what he did in the 38-year-old life. The Arizal, look what he did in the 38-year-old life. They asked the whole Arizal. People say, he's taking Breslover shtick. Okay, no Breslover shtick. Let's talk to Arizal. The Arizal, the father of Kabbalah. Rabbi, how did you get your spiritual level? He says, because I did every mitzvah with joy. Every single mitzvah. This, not kavonas. I did Hashem's name and a year and that. I did every mitzvah with joy. That's exactly what Gedalia said. Arizal put on his track shoes and he did every single mitzvah, not in 10 flat, and 9.84. He won the Olympics with every infant. Every single one. This is the zlizut. The guy that does book did do a little chazor on what Gedalia said. I hope everybody learned it. Everybody absorbed it. Okay, this is the simcha. But you were sluggish, you didn't get anything done. And what you could have done. Now they show you what you could have done. Okay, now the trial starts. And you say, first thing, you get to say with yourself. You say, what Hashem? Hashem, what are you talking about? So I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel happy. You didn't let me. I didn't let you feel happy. I didn't let you. Was your life more difficult than Avram Avinu? Do you know, beloved brothers and sisters, that every one of us is alive because of the joy of Avram Avinu? What do you mean joy of Avram Avinu? How would you feel if a voice came out and said, you take your firstborn that maybe you had maybe you waited 12 years after the wedding, but Avraham Avinu waited a lot more than 12 years after the wedding before he got Yitzchak. And when he finally got him, Kachet bincha et Yechidah, the Torah talks about Isaac and his only son, and the one you love, and take him up in Har Moriah and shecht him. Wow. So how can Avraham Avinu didn't enjoy? So what proof do you have that he didn't enjoy? A proof that we're all alive. Why? What proof is that we are all alive, that Avraham Avinu went to the Akedah and enjoyed, and went to do the most painful possible thing and went against the logic? What, Abraham, are you crazy? The whole world you've been talking against all your life, against rituals, against human sacrifice, and now you're going to do it to your own son? But Yiddishkeit and monotheism, it's finished before it's even started. Jimmy the Greek, the game's thrown, it's blown, that's it. You're off the court. The Yetzer gave him every single reason not to do it. Every single reason. No, Hashem told me. He put his intellect in. Avraham Avinu had a prodigious intellect. He was a 3-year-old, and he observed the world better than anyone could do. No philosopher in this. He looked at the sun and came on a cloud. The cloud covered the sun. He said the clouds are strong on the sun. And then came a wind and blew the clouds away, and one power, another power, and then came back. He said, no, it's not that. There must be a supreme creator. And the supreme creator revealed himself to Abraham. So Abraham finally, in 10 tests, one test, we're talking about test number 10, this week's Parsha. So Avraham Avinu picks up that knife, and he's about to lay it on the jugular of Yitzchak and to slaughter him. And comes the divine voice, Malach Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei, a divine voice that says, Avram, al tishlach yadcha lanav. Abraham, don't touch your son. Hold it. Time out on the field. Time out on the field. Call time out. I'm going to open up my Gemara. You know what my Gemara says? My Gemara says, Ein ashchina shoeh ela mokom simcha. The divine presence cannot be anywhere other than a place of joy. Which means, if Abraham didn't go to do that mitzvah, he couldn't have heard that divine voice. It wouldn't have been there. Makom Shechina, it just wouldn't have been there. Which means the fact that Yitzchak lived and Abraham heard the voice and was merited the voice, we are all here today. That's it. So say, wait a second, back in heavenly court. They say, how come you weren't happy? Look what you could have accomplished if you were happy. Look at the mental energy you would have saved, what you could have done, the physical energy you could save. What, because your ulcer, you didn't have a problem with digestive system. It was your unhappiness. And your cardiac problems, you didn't have a problem with that. Your pulmonary problems, it was all because of your unhappiness. Hashem said, I gave you a body. Hashem created a perfect body, but the body cannot stand unhappiness. Hashem created a body. Who says it? Stress, anxiety? The body can't stand stress and anxiety. So wait a second. So everybody's got stress and anxiety. Why does everybody have stress and anxiety? And they've got curse in their life? Got to answer right in the Torah. Open up twice in the Torah. Hashem wrote it once in the end of Bechukotai, and once in the Kisavoy, Tachat Asher Lo Avat Hashem Lokel B'Ken Simcha, where it's a whole long list of curses, which includes the Holocaust, which includes the first destruction of the first temple, destruction of the second temple, the Inquisition, the pogroms. It includes all the troubles. Why? Not because the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells 3 worst transgressions in the Torah: idolatry and illicit sex and illicit bloodshed. Not because of that, because we didn't serve Hashem with joy. What is going on here? And they say to the heavenly court, I didn't feel joy. How to serve Hashem? I didn't feel joy. So they say, show Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu had a little bit tougher life than you did. And how about David HaMelech? David HaMelech got kicked out of the house at 3 years old. His father thought he was an illegitimate child. Not going into the whole story, but you can see it's a Farish Midrash. David HaMelech, his father-in-law traced him to kill him. 2 sons, not 1 son, 2 sons revolted against him. His wife gave it. You talk about Shalom Bay's problems. You weren't married to Michal. His father-in-law, anybody have a father-in-law try to kill him? David Melech had all that. Well, David Melech, he smiles at Hashem. He says, Hashem, kol mitzvosecha emunah. Huh. And what's this emunah that he's talking about? In Hallel, we say it every year. It says, Hemanti ki adaber. My emunah, how do I show? What's a Brahman emunah? He speaks to Hashem. He spoke to Hashem every day. He did tshuva every day. David Melech, you know what a warrior he was? If David Melech was in the Olympics, he'd be gold medal javelin, gold medal sprinter. The Midrash tells us that he would throw a spear in his heyday. He was about 30, 35, and it would skewer 60 Moabite soldiers. And when he was 60 years old, he was hand-to-hand against 10 Philistines. Hand-to-hand. Imagine if anybody knows anything about Krav Maga, it's tough enough against 1. 2, 3, that's 10. 10 Philistines, all size of Goliath. And they weren't prevailing, and he wasn't prevailing. And comes Yoav, says, his general, Your Majesty, you're slowing down. I'm taking you out of combat. He retired from combat at age 60 because he was slowed down. He could not defeat 10 Philistine soldiers. That for King David is retirement. King David had a rough life, but King David was always happy. One thing scared him. The 10 Philistines didn't scare him. If we open up Psalm 51, he says, Hashem, al tashlicheni milfonecha. Hashem, whatever you do, don't throw away. Don't. Why? Because Shiviti Hashem legdi tamid. I see Hashem before me always. My happiness is with Hashem. He had to be happy all the time because he knew that was a prerequisite of having Hashem with him. Okay, so now you still want to argue with me. Okay, Lazer, give me an example of Avram Avinu. I'm Avram Avinu. You give me an example of David Melech. Okay, I'm going to call now the greatest psychotherapist that ever lived. His name is Rabbeinu Nachman ben Fegi, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Okay. And Rabbi Nachman tells us a story in one of his 13 tales about the clever and the simple. You think you got a rough life? You think you got problems? Gedalia spoke about what we call the if-only syndrome. If only Mikey marries me. If only I pass the bar exam. If only I pass the CPA exam. If only I start a startup company comes. And that's not if only, it's right now. Because the if only is always going to be another if only. There's no if only. If only I had this. Rabbi Nachman juxtaposes two characters. They grew up together, the same background, the same house, but the clever one, he had a 140 IQ. He was athletic. He was good looking. He was, have the kids who play choose up football, choose up. So he was the first guy that got chose up. All right, he had coordinated, great athlete, charismatic, everything. And then there was a simple one. The simple one, he had a 79 IQ. And he had like 2 left hands. And he was the last one that got chosen up on team in the pickup baseball. He was the last one. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't understand what he's talking about. So the clever one, he goes and does 3 advanced degrees. And he tries one profession. He says, I could do something better and do something better. But he's never happy with what he's doing. He's always doing something better. And he's traveling around the world. And he's looking at his destiny around the world. The simple one apprenticed himself by a cobbler, a shoemaker. And he makes shoes. And he sings all day long. And he gets knock nailed in the shoes. And he finishes the day's work. And the shoe, it's too narrow in the point. If you put that shoe on, it's going to squeeze your toes. And it's so wide in the back that it's going to fall off. It's like what they call flip-flops in Israel. They flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop. What do you call it? And where another cobbler would get 5 pieces of silver for a pair of shoes, he would get $150. That's it, third of the price. And people say, well, what, aren't you jealous? And he'd say, Zeh maseh shelo, zeh maseh sheli. This is this guy's work, and this is that guy's work. And what would he do when he finished making a shoe? He took his shoe, and he says, oh, beloved shoe, you are so exquisite. I would kiss the leather. He put in my word, he put in my heart into this. And he said, I hope the person that walks in this shoe, he should be blessed. And this is the way he served Hashem. He would come home and his wife would say, husband, what do you want for dinner? He says, let me have a piece of this Chateaubriand. Okay, Chateaubriand with what? With a mushroom sauce. Chateaubriand mushrooms. She'd cut off a little piece of dry black bread. That's all they had. And he said, she said, what would you like to drink? He says, I had the Merlot last night. How about the Cabernet Sauvignon Galil? 10-year-old. Okay. She brings him that. But, it's a little carafe of water. Water and black bread, that's all he had. He drank what Hashem gave him. He ate it with the pleasure that he was eating Chateaubriand in the best French restaurant. He drank that wine as he was drinking $1,000 bottle of wine. This is the way he did. We went to go, they only had one coat between them. It's called the pelts. They take the coat, they had nothing. But just as the clever one was clever, and he depended on his intellect, the simple one, he had Hashem, do. He had Hashem. You know the song, you just call my name, and you know wherever I come, I'll come running. Are you too young to know that? Okay. James Taylor and Carly Simon. Okay, you're too young. You're too young too. The simple one, he had Hashem. And he knew one thing. He knew the first principle of Amunah. That people that don't have smiles on their face don't know it. I walk into people and see people that are from. They're from. And you walk into a shul, they look at you like this, up and down. Who are you? How long is your beard? How long is your coat? And they're from. Try an experiment. Say from. And smile while you're saying from. Can't do it. From. It don't work. The ball game is what the Torah says, Tachat Hashem, that you gotta serve Hashem b'simcha. And this is what David HaMelech says, he turns it from a negative to a positive. Ibdu et Hashem b'simcha. Ibdu et Hashem b'simcha. Serve him with simcha. Whatever we do is b'simcha. Why do we do with simcha? Why do we do it? How can we do a simcha? And this is what the Heavenly Court answers us on the second movie. It says, because what you got, and this again, Gedalia, we're strongly connected. Gedalia said this. I don't know if you heard Gedalia said, I'm going to repeat it. Get a Chazor Shur of Gedalia. Nobody could do what you could do. Gedalia said, few people have the same soul correction. I'll say, no two people have the same soul correction. And you know what that means? Why are you not smiling? Let me ask you a question. Okay, Baruch Hashem, I got a white beard. I'm in good shape. Still, body and soul. Gedalia's in very good shape too. See us when we dance together. If I ask, we're going to make Simon Says, and take off my coat, when Simon Says, I need a volunteer. Make it feel kind of dumb. Come up here and lift your hand and lower your hand, lift your hand, lower your hand, lift your leg, lower your leg. Nobody, you feel embarrassed in front of the whole group. Okay, say very quietly, maybe you have a little financial difficulty. And say, how about 2 Benjamin Franklins in your pocket? Would that convince you to come up for 60 minutes? That's a nice Shabbos table, 2 Ben Franklins. Okay, come up. We know that we wouldn't do something without a reason. Why do we think that Hashem would do something without a reason? Hashem's less intelligent than we are? Everything that Hashem does is for a reason. David HaMelech, he couldn't understand why Hashem created black widow spiders. He understood everything. David HaMelech, he grew a big Perek Shira. He understood all of creation. One thing, he had a showstopper, black widow spiders. I don't know what was black widow spiders. Hashem says, okay, David, you got questions? You got a question Amunah? This was the only question Amunah I ever know that I know that David HaMelech ever had. Hashem, why did you create black widow spiders? King Saul and his lieutenants almost caught David. And King Saul went delirious with jealousy, and he wanted to kill him, kill his son-in-law. And if you ever visited the Judean desert, these high cliffs are very dangerous. There's a cul-de-sac. And they had King David cornered in a cul-de-sac. There was nowhere to go. and he could hear the horse's hoofs. They're getting there. If he would have had a psycho, he'd looked at it. Now, 60 seconds expected lifespan. That's it. But all of a sudden, he saw an output in a cave. Nowhere to go. He jumped in the cave. Hashem sent a black widow spider that in less than a minute, she wove a web that would take a spider 2 years to do. And the soldiers very quickly, they came there, they saw the cave, and they saw this big, nasty black widow. You don't touch a web of a black widow spider, because that's it. Very, very, very deadly, very lethal. And they said, well, he disappeared. Can't be in here. He didn't come in here. So they left, and as they left, the black widow spider took her web and her travel suitcase, wrapped it all up, and King David heard a voice. Any more questions, my son? Any more questions, Ramona? This is what we all hear. If we had enough spiritual awareness, we'd hear this. Any more questions? Hashem, why this? Hashem, how come I'm not married? Hashem, how come I have this physical problem? Hashem, how come this? How come this? Hashem, you give me a soulmate, I'll start serving you. Hashem, you give me good health, I'll start serving you. Hashem, you take away this terrible boss, give me a better job, I'll start serving you. No. Hashem wants us to serve right now with joy in the middle of our Akedah. And this again what Gedalia said. Go one point. Again what Gedalia said.
We didn't talk before.
No, we did that. We just saw it 10 minutes before we saw each other first time in 2 years. Okay. It's the challenge. It's not what you win or lose. The outcome doesn't belong. It's how we withstand the challenge. We do it b'simcha, no matter what's the simple. The outcome doesn't belong to us. Ki Hashem alone. This does and will do. The people say, so what is the barometer of emunah? Oh, talk a really good game. I think really good game. People come up to me and they say, Lazer, it's easy for you to talk about emunah. You've got such a great life. You've had such a thing. You're popular. You go around the world. I, too, had, right now, 60 minutes under Dr. Gudeman. What a fantastic chiropractor. And I warned him before he touched me. He said I had a lot of stuff that needed to loosen up. I said, don't be alarmed, but there's a lot of old injuries there. Body. What you find there? So a list of, okay, you see as I'm looking at you, my nose is in Staten Island. I'm looking at Staten Island. My nose is looking at Chicago. It's not there. Okay. And there's ribs, there's collarbones. That's enough. How about when I came into the world, I had the worst health problems in the world. My mother was a Holocaust survivor, so she thought I was going to starve, and I was force-fed like a goose. A little kid that was fat. I was asthmatic. I had all kinds of stuff. Now, as older, I did 2 difficult workouts 6 years ago, threw my heart into AFib. Don't stop. We serve Hashem with simcha. Wherever I went, Lazer went Eshet Torah. In my rabbinical class, graduating class, there were guys from Harvard, there were guys from Yale, there were guys from CPA, and I was at Cal College, University of Maryland. I learned how to plant trees and raise cows and chickens. And that was 2 things I did. I had a dream. 2 dreams to do in Eretz Yisrael. To become a soldier and become a farmer. Okay, I did both. And soldier, my unit, I went into my unit and they looked at me in the first day and they said, what are you doing here? I said, I want to be in this unit. I said, what? They looked at my waist. Like, you ever looked at yourself in a mirror? I said, okay, Sarge, try me. You know, I was messing with. I was never a place where everyone was not smarter, everyone was more intelligent than me. But one thing, had the desire. If you could do it. Had the desire, could do it. Eshet Torah. Today, I went back to see Rabbi Berkowitz. Rabbi Berkowitz, my beloved, I have 2 beloved Rebbes, the Melitzer Rebbe and Rabbi Berkowitz, the head of Eshet Torah. He was my Rav Muvhak at Aish. And he told me a story. He told it to other people. He said this on film, but he told it to me the first time a year ago. He said, Lazer, do you know when you came and applied for a rabbinical program, do you know that the committee didn't want to accept you? I said, what? They said, nothing's ever going to come out of this guy. This guy's a turkey. They said some moshavnik, he raised turkeys and fruit trees, and nothing's ever come to him. And so Rabbi Berkowitz says, he says, I don't agree with you guys. Somebody said what Berkowitz said about me. I'm embarrassed to say, I'm not going to say it here. But Rabbi Berkowitz himself overrided the whole acceptance committee and came in. And I don't want to say what my old classmates are doing and what I'm doing. Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem. Thank you Hashem. This is, and when Rav Shalom wrote the clever and the simple one, he told me when he wrote the Garden of Wisdom, this is my favorite book, when Rav Shalom wrote that, he said, Lazer, I just wrote your biography. It doesn't matter. This is Avraham Avinu. This is David HaMelech. It doesn't matter what your setbacks are. It matters what you do with them. Now, how do you do with it? There's one thing. Teach you one thing tonight, and it's the secret to finding true happiness, and go with it whatever you do. You should know that Hashem created you perfect. And back to the thing what the Simon says. The fact that Hashem created you means that the world cannot exist without you. Because to say that the world can exist without you means that Hashem does things for no reason. And if Hashem creates a black widow spider for a reason, he served one of his beloved Jewish children for a reason, how many of us are there in the world? And how many of the non-us are in the world? One to how many thousands? We're one in how many thousands? Every one of us. Chelek elok mima'al, says the Zohar. A tiny part of Hashem. And we say, what does it sound like hippie? I did like a breast of a hippie, my brothers and sisters. If I got Hashem's DNA, and the Torah says, Bonim atem l'Hashem Elokecha, and you have Hashem's DNA, and the Torah calls us brothers and sisters, come on, I rest my case. You don't need a PhD in genealogy to know that every Jew is a brother and a sister. And now you know why we have to love each other. And why Hashem is so upset when we're not one together, one body. Doesn't matter what the person looks like, what he dresses like. And doesn't matter whether he eats chayma on Shabbos, gefilte fish on Shabbos. Okay, one. Remember that you are unique. And what did Gedalia said? We're doing a whole chazara on Gedalia thing. Don't look at anybody else. Because if you look at anybody else, I'm just elaborating on it. And the reason it's true is because I could go through his shur and just do chidushim on it. Rewrite it and do chidushim on it. The Torah says, or Chazal say, the true Torah has the power of reproduction, pri or via. Okay, so not only are you the only one with your correction, and Dai said, don't look at other people. Lazer will add to that. If you look at somebody else, you're a double loser. Because you can't be the somebody else. Hashem gave them their own unique neshama with their own advantages and seemingly disadvantages. There are no seemingly disadvantages. Is it a disadvantage for a plumber that he doesn't have a saw and nails in his toolbox? He doesn't need a saw and nails. Is it a disadvantage for a carpenter that he doesn't have a monkey wrench in his toolbox? He doesn't need a monkey wrench. and what the electrician has in toolbox, the tools that neither the plumber nor the carpenter has. This is what you think is a disadvantage that you're 5'8". Hashem didn't want you to play for the NBA. That's all. Okay. So Hashem took these unnecessary choices. Don't break your head. Okay, but fine. That's not a disadvantage to anything else. And a disadvantage, don't look at another woman. She's better than you. She's pretty. No. You're perfect. You're perfect. And you only need one soulmate. And you and the soulmate, you say, I'm blemished. It's like the one board has a knot in it, and the other board has it's the opposite. The male and female, the knot, put them together, and they fit perfectly. Each one, they look like they're blemished, but they fit perfectly. You have the exact tools you need to do your job in life. How come you haven't found your job in life? Thank you. Everybody say amen. ברוך אתה אדינו אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו.
Amen.
May Hashem bless the hands that brought that glass of water. Hashem gives you exact tools that you need to do your job in life, which means you are perfect for doing your job in life. Oh, boy, would I be miserable if I want to be a Gedalia Fenster. Look at him here. Lazer, you got every barber. Okay, so wait a second. Let's start. Okay, I'm going to be Gedalia Fenster. I'm going to a plastic surgeon. Doctor, straighten the nose. Okay, straighten the nose. Wait a second. Gedalia, let me ask you a question. Does it hurt to be so good looking? Okay, try to be him. I can't. But Lazer, okay, Lazer, this is the calm to do thing. Be happy with what we're doing, happy with Hashem. Now, how can I be happy with what I have? This is the barometer of Emunah. Sameach bechalko. This is what Chazal and all Pirkei Avot, they tell us, Sameach bechalkecha. Be happy with your lot in life. Why be happy with your lot in life? Because Hashem gives us the exact soulmate we need for our soul correction, the exact job we need for our soul correction, the exact neighbor we need for our soul correction, the exact abusive boss we need for our soul correction. And that is how the simple one smiles. And then the king happens to be going through the kingdom. And the king is really upset. He knows his ministers, they're stealing from him blind. And he knows they're unreliable. And somebody tells him, there's this village, and there's a shoemaker who's truly happy, and he's smiling all the time. King says, impossible. Impossible. Yeah, your majesty, there is someone like that. Okay? And he signs his name, the simple one. King says, there's no such thing as a simple person on you. What are we davening for? There's not a single day in Lazer Brody's Hitbodu, personal prayer, don't ask for simple emunah. Do you know the color that Kabbalah depicts divine light? It's white. Nothing is simpler than white. Okay? King David says in Psalms, Ule yishrei lev simcha. He says, those that have straight of heart, there's nothing simpler in geometry than a straight line. Color white straight line. Everything that is simplest, the tachlis of simplicity. Hashem is not complicated. Hashem is so simple. Ani Hashem Elokecha asher hotzita me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeis avadim. I'm the Lord your God. I took you out of Egypt. And the Rambam tells us he did, does, and will do everything. That's all Hashem. And the Torah sums it up in 3 words. Ein od milvado. Ein od milvado. Mala kol haaretz kevodo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Melech ve'ani avdo. There's nobody but Hashem. Nobody but Hashem. When you know, wait a second. My tribulations in life, they come from Hashem. My tribulations are all the best. Believe me, neither in athletics nor in the military, it ain't easy. Ringo Starr made a song about, you don't come easy, you know it don't come. That's the way life is. It doesn't come easy. Nothing worthwhile comes easy. And you won't see someone who is seemingly more cruel than an athletic coach or a military commander. But the athletic coach wants to be a winner, and the military commander wants you to come home alive, victorious. And Hashem wants us to finish our 120 years on earth with a smile on our face. And there's only one way to do it. We sing on, we dance with the Torah, on Simchat Torah, and we say, Ashrei ish shelo yishkacheka, u'ben adam yit'ametzbach. Happy is the person that never forgets you, and the person who strains for you. What's strain? Okay, with all the static and all the yetzer, hey, it's not so easy. Nobody says it's easy. You can't have a Super Bowl with one team on the field. You can't have NBA Finals. The whole action is the opposite team. The whole action in the Torah is where Jacob wrestles the angel. Who's the angel? Esau's angel. Who's Esau's angel? That's the Samach Mem. That's the Yetzer Hara. That was some fight all night long. And it was a dead tie until Yaakov Avinu put him in an arm lock, and that's it, and wouldn't let him go. He said, I got to get out of here. It's an angel. It said, someone, no, you're not getting out of here until I get a bracha. and you got a bracha. Every one of us is fighting that angel. And in order to fight that angel, you got to have a smile on our face. Because a smile, in Hebrew, the word for besimcha, that's machshava. You play Hebrew Scrabble, which means that the thought process depends on our simcha. In other words, you see, there's one thing, I'll tell you a little secret from Krav Maga. In Krav Maga, it's not the powerful one that wins. It's the guy that assesses. The guy uses his brain, requires brain. Use present, just see, look for the weak point, look here, observe, and then boom, 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 boom. I got to finish this off in 2 seconds because I can't do something prolonged. It's very quick, but a lot, it's very sikhli, it's very, very it's a mind strain. And this is what we have to do. But we can't do on our own. Whatever we're doing, you know when we don't succeed? When we don't ask Hashem for help. When we forget the Shiviti. When we forget Hashem. We forget that everything is from Hashem. When we forget that He alone did, does, and will do. And you know where that forgetfulness comes from? That amnesia comes from the evil inclination. And so everything we do, I'm going to give you a little secret how to be happy and how to be successful. Before you do a business deal, before you put a cake in the oven, before you put a challah in the oven, before you do whatever you do, before you cross the street, Hashem, help this deal be successful. Hashem, help this cake be successful. Hashem, help me do whatever. Oh, Hashem says, you're asking my help? Beloved son, beloved daughter, you got it. There's no such thing as you ask Hashem for help. You don't get it. But people think people are egoistic. No, then I can't say it's me, me. I want to be the big man on the campus. I want to be the guy that does. No, you need Hashem. Well, you have to know. This is just like the simpleton. To make the story, Rabbi Nachman could teach how the king was so impressed with the simple one, he threw out his advisors. He started out as a governor. He had a crooked governor. And he started governing. It was so simple management of the government. Ask Hashem for help. And he made it to a vice minister, minister, and he was the king's right-hand man. And who's the king? The king, this is the whole parable. The king is Hashem. It means what Rabbi Nachman told us. Don't think Rabbi Nachman says that I got so tall and so great because I'm a great-grandson of Baal Shem Tov. Anybody that does what I did, Gedalia said that too. Look, you want to be Gedalia Fenster? It's got to start at 3:30 in the morning. Lazer's not 3:30 in the morning, but get to the mikveh and to shul in the morning until you move your body a little bit. Okay, not many people want to do that. Instead of the morning coffee, you got to move your body. There's a whole set of, so that my body is ready to talk to Hashem. And people ask, how come you jump and you dance and you daven like this all the time? In Yiddish, they call it kochadik. Kochadik. Because it's on fire. This is in, like, the one time I let it go during the week, the Melitzer says go. It says, Nishmas, let all the horses out of the stable. We get to Nishmas on Shabbat in the morning, Kol Atzmoisai Tamalna, and Lazer sounds like he whispers when you hear me in Nishmas. Okay, that's when we let it all go. But it's real. You feel Hashem. Hashem, be with me. Hashem, be with me. The moment you say, Hashem, be with me, there's not such, can you imagine your little baby daughter, your little baby son say, Mommy, Daddy, be with me? And you're not going, no, I'm not going to do that. Of course you're going to do it. But the moment that you ask Hashem to be with you, Hashem's got a law. He can't be with you unless you're happy. So Hashem will give you happiness in order that He'll be with you. It works the opposite. If you ask that, you invoke Hashem in your life, and maybe I'm not feeling Hashem, I go, and I set aside my time and I talk to Hashem. Hashem, I'm not feeling my best. Hashem, I'm concerned. Hashem, I don't feel my bitachon. Hashem, I know what's going to be. Hashem, I need your help. Oh, my beloved son of God, you need my help? Okay, now you get simcha so that Hashem can come and be with you and give you help. Divine law, that's it. That is the key to real happiness. It is so simple, like the simple one. And this is a straight line. This is the color white. And this, who else said it? Signed check from King Solomon. Elokim barat adam yashar vehemo bikshu cheshbonos rabim. Hashem created the person straight, the straight line, simple. But they confuse things. You want to be an intellect. No, I can't say that I'm a 79, 80, 90 IQ. I'm going to be a 140 IQ. Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem, that I'm not a 140 IQ. Baruch Hashem. This is the key to happiness. Spend time with Hashem every day. Be with Hashem every moment. Everything you do, and you're with Hashem. This is Dveikus. This is Dveikus. You can be in the right away level of Tzaddik. Hashem be with me. Hashem be with me. As soon as it says Hashem be with me, this is a request that Hashem does not refuse, and it doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter how you didn't do tshuva yet, nothing. Hashem be with me. Ooh, you're Hashem's son, you're Hashem's daughter. Suppose you're your son or your daughter, they ran away from home, they did stuff, and they'd come back. Mommy, Daddy, take me back, be with me. It's right there. Come on, sweetheart. Right back. What parent wouldn't do it? That is the secret of true happiness. Invite Hashem in your life, and that is real Amunah. Not the from kite, not the long black coat, not the this, and not the stringencies. With Hashem, that's Emunah, where I live my life with Hashem from morning to night. I wake up with Hashem. I go to bed with Hashem. I start Modani. I thank Hashem for every single heartbeat. Don't take it for granted. And anybody that's been in situations in life, whether in war situations or whether in, heaven forbid, car accidents, heaven forbid, injuries, and don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted, because the best cardiac insurance is to thank Hashem for our hearts. The best pulmonary insurance to thank Hashem for the air we breathe. Thank Hashem, and not wait. We have to beg Hashem. Hashem save my heart. No, right now. Thank Hashem for eyes. Thank Hashem for everything. We live our Hashem. We live our lives with Hashem. We thank Him all day long. We talk to Him all day long. And if we can, we set aside time to be with Him. And we make Hashem part of our lives. That is living Emunah. Living Emunah equals living happiness, equals true happiness. And you should be happy, and it's going to help you be healthy, and it's going to maximize your life potential to 120 years and 2 days. Amen. Amen.
Okay, we're going to start. For anybody else who wants to stay for the Q&A, we're going to begin that right now. If you have to go, be with the kids, we understand. Thank you very much for coming out. A special thank you to Rabbi Lazer of the Young Israel of Staten Island and the entire board. Thank you for hosting this wonderful event at Young Israel of Staten Island. Okay, and so by beginning the Q&A, if anybody has a direct question that they'd like to ask to Gedalia or Rabbi Brody, you can specify which one, or if it's general, I'll allow either one to come up and answer for it. Once again, thank you very much for coming out. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock p.m. will be the continuation of this momentous event with Rabbi Shalom Arush, who will be here, along with Rabbi Dayan Elgrad, so that's going to be fantastically phenomenal. We'll continue that tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We'll give everybody just a minute if they want to come closer for the seats that are open to have the Q&A, and anybody else who wants to leave. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
After the quiz?
Yes. Mara will be after the Q&A session, and then after that, for those who are still here, we'll be able to have a little one-on-one time and get some signatures and inscriptions in any of the books that they have. Okay, we're going to start the Q&A now because it's getting a little later, and then we'll see how it goes. If people have questions, raise your hand, or we'll either come over to you or ask you to go with the mic. Not Alex, behind the okay. All right, is anybody going to be brave enough and raise their hand for the first question for the Q&A session? Okay. That guy right there. Okay. Yeah. We're going to hear from Ellie Nyman. Go ahead. Directed to anyone? Okay.
So this question is for both Gedalia and Brody.
So one of the things I was thinking about is that you both spoke about happiness, which is of course a very common theme in Rabbi Nachman. And Rabbi Nachman talks about one of the ways to achieve joy is through giving tzedakah, is through finding the good points. But one of the things I think that might be a challenge is happiness is, I think, in two parts. One of it is emotion, but the other part is cognition. Sometimes our cognition, I think we both sort of hinted to it, our cognition can be a little bit off, like when we feel down, so we really think that everyone has a better life. How do we fix our cognition, not just our emotion, to try to connect to Hashem, that our cognition is off when we're depressed? How can we fix that?
I think you answered your question. There's your question. When you change your focus, change your motion, you change your emotion. By changing motion, you change your emotion. Sometimes you can feel brokenhearted, we can feel off. We change and move around, and that triggers the emotion. So motion changes emotion.
I have a question.
Thanks,
Rabbi Brody, so what was the first video I missed? You said the second video is what you could have become?
The first video is what you actually did. What you actually did. And the second video is what you could have done if you'd have been happy.
Any more questions? Yeah. This guy's on 24-hour rental, this guy. I gotta take you to Miami with me.
I'm coming.
And he's working all day long too. I don't understand.
How do you describe a gut feeling versus actual fear?
Gut feeling versus fear.
What?
It's a good question.
Oh, for shidduchim.
For shidduchim.
You want to know? How do you know it's right, or you're just afraid of it?
I mean, in my personal experience, you have to make it right. It's not, you get the potential, but in order to make potential to actual, I mean, you can have the best soulmate and have the worst marriage, or you can have the worst person and have the best marriage. So, as far as is something good for you or not, I would start how do you know? By surrendering. If it's like a fear, try to surrender it and see if it still comes up. And if it doesn't come up, then it could be something, there's a gut feeling that it's not meant to be.
Add one word to Gedaliah's superb answer. Rabbi Nachman talks about Yirot Nefula, misplaced fears. Okay? And when I have a fear that's irrational, it means that my fear of Hashem is insufficient. So the way to neutralize a fear of shidduchim is you go into the shidduch, just what we talk about, ask for Hashem's help. Hashem, illuminate my eyes if this is the right one. Hashem, help me if it's the right one, make it happen. And if not, okay. But Hashem, it's not my job to be afraid. It's your job. It's my job to fear you. That's my job. To be afraid of other things, that's it. It's not your job. You be afraid, okay? So Hashem, you be afraid not to give me the wrong. Hashem won't give you the wrong one. So as soon as you invoke Hashem, you're not afraid anymore.
But you still have to run the marathon. You understand? Like you saw everybody running the marathon, whether they're afraid or not, you still have to run a marathon though. It is a marathon, it's not a race.
Definitely.
So, sometimes we're afraid of the short, but it is a marathon.
Definitely.
If I'm not mistaken, Rabbi Arush last night said that the best way to receive is to first thank God for lacking it since the time hasn't come. If we're saying any prayer, including Tikkun, Habali, should I first thank God that I don't have whatever it is that I'm lacking since the time hasn't come yet?
Well, Tikkun HaKlali is more of a cleansing. There's always a cleansing before the blessing. That's a whole different story. That's to get rid of extra entities that could that can confuse you. But in general, the fact that you have a lack, God gives you a lack in order so you should come closer to God through that lack. And by appreciating the lack, that is emunah, in not becoming the victim, but appreciating that lack was there for a reason, and that lack serves a purpose, so I can come closer to God through that lack. Therefore, I should thank God for that lack. That's emunah.
And to add to that, what Rav Shalom intends people say, well, how can I thank something for something painful? Or I'm faking it. I'm going to lie to Hashem. He knows if I'm lying or not. No, that's not it. You don't think, Hashem, thank you for the broken arm. Thank you for the bankrupt. Thank you that I lost $100,000. No, that's not it. That Hashem, if I have this pain, I know it's from you. And you're my beloved Father. And you're doing everything for the best. So if you're doing for the best for me, I'm going to thank you for it. And Hashem says, you're going to thank me for that? Now wait and see the reasons you get to thank me.
Just like somebody apologizing. I'm sorry. No, that's not really apologizing. You're just saying it to say it. Because I told you I'm hurt. But when you really apologize, you apologize differently. So you can apologize and not really mean it. So we've all been, people have apologized, but they haven't meant the apology. And you don't take it if it's not meant.
You speak of emotion, changing emotion.
Correct.
But how do you change that emotion? How does a less energetic person change their
Become more energetic?
nature to, yeah.
Right.
How do you attain it?
So less energetic, that's a story we've been saying. You understand? What does that mean? It's less energetic because we're putting less effort in energetic. So you have to work harder at making it happen. So you should never say, I have less energy. I just have to work harder. You understand? Because already if you say, I have less energy, it's assuming already you're coming in there like, oh, I have a problem, and maybe it's a chemical thing. No, you have to move. Move, create motion. Believe me, it's not easy for me. I'm extremely emotional, and I have tremendous challenges. But I know every single time, once I get going, the beginning is always tough. But once you get going, it flows. But you should say I'm a highly energetic person, not a less energetic person.
Secular coaches and trainers say that they don't want non-energetic people. They want energetic athletic because they can train tigers, but they can't put fire in pussycats. And when coaches say no, say to a person who apparently said doesn't have energy, ask that person, what do you like? What's your favorite thing? He says, chocolate ice cream or Baskin Robbins or whatever. And what about if you run to that corner, I'll give you a gift certificate for Baskin Robbins for 53 flavors. Okay? He's going to run to the corner. All right? And just say, you take every mitzvah in Torah, that's Baskin Robbins. That's change his outlook. Change his outlook, and you can get to love. And get to love. And the way to get to love to do is to teach Emunah. Because Emunah is the one on the left side of the check. You take tefillin, that's great. Shabbos is great. Mikvah is great. Kashrus is great. Like 0, 0. If there's no Emunah, then a person won't be able to weather a difficult time. And that's where we have, what's the number one problem in Judaism today is off the derech kids. Okay, that's it. And I guarantee you, and I was from going around the world, whether it's in London or Williamsburg, and spoken in Hasidic yeshivas, lift yeshivas, where boys have been learning Torah all their lives, and they look dead. Because nobody ever taught them Emunah. And don't blame them, because their Rebbes never learned Emunah.
Very sad.
Let's go to that side of the room and we'll come back.
Yes.
Can you be loud?
I'll try and be loud, yeah. Gedal, you spoke about the desires could be our downfalls in the context of social comparison.
Sure.
But at the same time, in some of your lessons, you're empowered to have desires, right? So how do you rectify having the right desires?
Right. Spiritual desires, you have to be 100% aggressive. Financial desires is going to come to you at the right time. You have to have a desire. So financially, if you want a desire, for example, I could say, Creator of the world, if I don't have Emunah, I'm dead. And you'll actually get Emunah because you're demanding it on a spiritual sense. It's a need in heaven. But if you're trying to chase something financially, physically, because of low self-esteem, and you're doing it through sadness, that is not necessarily going to trigger that. Because what happens is if that person himself cannot, even if he receives that money, it's going to lead him to worse and worse things. So the good question is what do you become after you receive the money? Do you become chasing double, or is this going to change you? You understand? That's how you know. If you receive, will you be a giver, or will you be just, the more you have, the more you want. So that's necessarily not going to solve the problem. So anything where you're relating to kavod, honor, or validation, you don't want to go after it because it's ego-based. And the more you go after it, people see it's desperate, or fear of not being loved, and then people will usually run the other side, or runs away from you. You know, a guy that wants to go out with a girl, over and over a girl, he just keeps on being like Lazer, except spiritually. Come on, you have to go with that. That girl will never go out with him because she'll feel, wow, this guy is, my whole life, he's a creep. And she's not going to date him. Because the girl's going to say, this guy, it's too desperate, something's wrong. So the same concept. So financially, you want to have bitachon and stand back, work hard, but surrender the outcome. But spiritually, you do have to turn it up. I hope that answers.
Yeah, surrender the outcome.
Surrender the outcome, believe it or not.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so
How
much
are
for
you?
coming.
Anytime.
And guys, try to be a little more direct with the questions to the point.
I'm going
instead of the whole story.
to try to be as loud as possible. Sorry if you
I'll
guys
do
can
it.
hear me. I'd like to apply your wisdom into practicality, into today's world. We have, unfortunately, we have drug addicts. So how can a drug addict really have emunah, bitachon, simcha, when he's clearly trying to stay sober? Another question is, how can his drug dealer, who's caused so much pain and suffering to people, directly, indirectly, how can he really come back to Hashem and have simcha at the end of the day? Could you say that is borderline delusional?
For the drug dealer or for the...
For just trying to be happy when you know that you caused
But there's two questions
a
here.
lot of, it's 2 questions.
Which one do you want to deal with, the
Oh.
dealer or the addict?
Gedalia, answer
reason
the
why I'm
first
asking-
one,
Okay, let me answer the first.
and I'll answer the second
Sorry.
one. About, you answer,
Okay, you answer the drug dealer.
I'll answer the dealer, you answer the addict.
Not from experience.
Exactly. Don't hate the players, hate the game, right? The bottom line, any attempt to use drugs or anything is an attempt for higher consciousness. Okay, for example, let's say I'm depressed, and next thing you know, I have social anxiety. I take 2 drinks, 3 drinks, I'm the life of the party, my anxiety goes away, the real me comes out, I'm talking to everybody, the buzz goes off, I'm the same miserable person. Okay? So what happens? All that did is it blocks the ego. All alcohol, drugs do is it blocks what's making you feel horrible. You understand? But technically, what you really got a taste of is that's where you should really be. So what you need to do is the person in recovery has to work on letting go of all those things that are making him feel the way he's feeling, and he can get to that same high without anything. That's the purpose of the 12 steps, is to get to the same level of consciousness, but now through work and letting go and therapy versus that person. You understand? Is that the question? So that person usually the purpose of a spiritual awakening comes when you first have to surrender. You can't fight. You have to first surrender, and that allows, because remember, drugs is very controlling. You want to control how you feel. So when you surrender, that allows truth, and that starts the process. That starts the process of an awakening in consciousness. So I've had many people, all my employees are in recovery, and they're much nicer and much kinder people and better people that they would have never gone to recovery. So the purpose of all this darkness is you come higher. When you come back, you come much higher than you would have ever had if you didn't use. You want to?
Now, as
do you
far as the
understand that
dealer.
or no? Do you understand the concept? Okay.
The Gemara talks about the dealer. If we open up Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 17b, he wasn't a dealer, but he was a dealer who used his services. This guy was called I'd say nice word, panderer. I can't tell the Gemara because it's so graphic, we can't talk about here. But this particular panderer, Hugh Hefner in Playboy was Mother Teresa compared to this guy. Okay, this guy did everything and the worst low-life stuff, and he finally went to this world famous, most expensive hooker alive, and she said to him at a embarrassing moment, she said to him, I don't know how she had got in her mouth. She says, Hashem is never going to accept you in Shuvah. So he fell off her gold-laden bed, And he heard that, and it just pierced like an arrow in his heart. And he went out, you know, the song, the old American folk song, "Oh, sinner man, where you gonna run to? Oh, sinner man," it's from this Gemara. It's from this Gemara. So the sinner man, he goes out, he says, "Son, help me." Son says, "By the time I help you, I gotta help myself. I can't help you." And he says, "Moon, help me." Moon can't help the stars. He goes to the sun, moon, stars. And he finally says, "Eina davar tolui bi." He says, "It only depends on me." And he cried to Hashem, he cried to Hashem, he cried to Hashem. He cried to Hashem so much that his neshama left him. And then a voice came out, and the guy's name was Eliezer ben Dordia. And he said, "Rabbi Eliezer ben Dordia is now invited to the world to come." He walked right in. The guy did everything worse. He did 1 hour of tshuva. So the great of the generation, Rabbi the Nasi, he cried. And he says, some people work all their lives, and this guy in 1 hour, that's not, people don't understand the Gemara. If he would have taken multiple hours with the same effort that he did, he could have been, the great Mar Ochma. He was a great scholar, he was a great Amora. He was also a man of the night. He became great. I could give you a couple of Bali Shuvas with the whole thing. The door is never locked on tshuva. Now, it may be difficult. And this is the mistake in the Gemara and Chagiga that Acher made. Acher, he did everything, the low-life stuff, and he heard a voice from heaven. And it said, everybody is invited to do tshuva except Acher. He didn't understand that. As far as he was, it means that a Baal tshuva gets special siyata d'shmaya. But some guys go over to the land. Maybe the dealer is not going to have siyata d'shmaya. Because, hey, buddy, you got to be aware that you wrecked a lot of people's lives. If he's strong enough, and he has tshuvas mishkal, the Rabbi Nachman talks about, and he does equivalent, he does spiritual aikido. The bad I brought in the world, now I'm going to do the good. Take the momentum. And he does such tshuva like that. And just like I brought people down, now I'm going to go into the Bronx and I'm going to beat people up. He's going to walk right in. And he's going to get accepted. The doors of tshuva are never locked, not to the, I started, the PIMP, and not to the pusher, and not to the bank robber, not to this, and you could see. And you could encourage. My first job as a rabbi was, I had a tough internship. I was rabbi of Ramla prison. Israeli prisons are no picnic. Take American Israeli criminals, rough dudes, had everything behind bars. Rapists, murderers, drugs, come on, that was it. That was so hard. I gave it up after 2.5 years. I used to come home as if I ran the marathon every day. My clothes were sweaty. But the one thing we did, and that's where it all started, that spiritual rehabilitation. Learn that from Rabbi Levi Yitzchok Berdichev. He says, you need 10,000 Russian cops so that people don't smuggle vodka from Russia to Poland. The Jews don't need 1 cop that they don't eat chametz on Pesach. As soon as you teach a person there's a Shem, you don't need a penal system, you don't need jails, you don't need anything. That's the best rehab. So the gates of tshuva are open. They're not always easy, but like we say, they don't come easy. Okay, don't expect that you ruin the world, but this again, Rabbi Nachman promised, so good shed. Okay? If you believe that you could ruin something, believe that you could rectify it.
And I've seen many people that work for me that were dealers. Many. I've seen clients changing lives, and they were dealers. So I've seen it physically. First hand. Many. Yes.
Hi.
Oh, did it pass your jurisdiction? Good? Okay.
You're taking my job.
Go ahead.
Okay. I am very, very embarrassed to say this. I come from home, and I disagree with you. The gates of Teshuvah are not open. They are closed, especially for people that want to become more from. Now you keep
Hold it, wait a second, time out. The gates of tshuva I'm talking about Hashem. I'm not talking about people. You do tshuva to people? You don't do tshuva to people, you do tshuva to Hashem. Hashem is always there for you.
No. Can I please finish? You keep on talking about Amunah.
Excuse me, if you would get, you got to be ready. You want to ask tough questions? You're going to get tough answers. Okay? You want to hit? You're going to get hit back. All right? But just know, I'm not going to baby you. I'm not going to baby you. I'm going to give you the answer you need, and we're not going to play around. Go ahead, ask whatever you want,
Yes.
but be prepared to get an answer right straight back.
Okay, you keep on talking about Amunah, faith, and bitachon, trust in God. How do you get this Amunah, bitachon, and trust in God when you were not raised with this kind of thinking? Like I am sitting in this room where everybody has it. You talk about it, and like in there's people say daven, daven, daven. What's the purpose of davening? It's like a Hebrew speed reading contest. I don't know how to daven. So there are many areas I'm definitely lacking in. So how can somebody like me get past this? And
Did you hear Gedaliah's lesson?
Yeah, you have to open up your heart. You have to open up your heart. First, you got to open up the heart, because the whole lesson was just all about that. The whole lesson.
Let me answer this one,
Just
Gedalia.
open up your heart a little bit.
Gedalia said in his lesson, don't look at anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm telling you not to look at anybody else. You got to know one thing. When you, in your heart, want to make tshuva, the game stops. Hashem says, what? My beloved son that he grew up, he didn't even know he was Jewish, barely. He didn't know what matzah was, he didn't know what Shabbos was, he didn't know what tefillin was. Now he wants to come to me? Well, the gates are wide open. You are going to get siyata dishmaya. Excuse me, listen. Don't do this with the head. Listen to the answer. All right, you come to me as a physical coach, and you say, I want to run the marathon, or else I check you out. You could be, show me your blood work. And you show me your blood work. Hey, come on. Your triglycerides are up in the sky. Okay, you see, I'll give you right now. Look at you, I'll tell you right now. Your triglycerides are up in the sky.
they're not.
Huh?
No, they're not.
Okay, good. Proud of you. But if they were, I tell you what to eat. And if your cholesterol is off, tell you what to eat. Maybe eat too much sugar to give you a whole thing. And if you want to run a marathon, you never ran a marathon in your life. We're going to start, we're going to walk around the block. And then going to jog around the block. You can't start. If you start, you want to run a marathon. Don't look at people that are putting on an outer show. Do you want to know if people have emunah? There's only one test of emunah. Let them come, visit me in Israel, in Ashdod, and I live closer to Gaza than you are from here to Teaneck. Okay, by Katyush it only takes 32 seconds. We get a siren, there's 32 seconds to do it. Okay, you see a person, how does a person act when he's getting shot at? That's emunah. Not the way he's rocking back and forth. And then from Shacharis to Aleinu, from Hodu to Aleinu is 28 minutes. That's not emunah. Because you can't say it. But that's a guy that has emunah, he needs 28 minutes for Shemona Esrei. Right time talks to Hashem and asks Hashem for everything. Don't look at anybody else. Start with an English sitter. Start with your own words. Start with do what you can. Get yourself.
Maybe read Garden of Amunah. Get some more information. Just be open-minded and see what maybe something will live with you. Right now, nobody's going to convince you because you're blocked. So
Garden of Amunah and 13 principles of Amunah. Know what Jew believes in.
Listen to a few classes. Just try to open up, loosen up a little bit, and then little by little we can.
Okay, but take the negativity away. Put a smile on your face, because if you want Hashem to be with you, don't look at people. Go with Hashem. Don't look at people. Don't look at people. Don't be dependent on somebody's okay. If a person needs somebody to say, "Oh, you're okay," needs an emotional handout. That's just like being a person what's the difference between an emotional handout and a monetary handout? Go with Hashem, put a smile on your face. I guarantee you I will sign a paper. Sign a paper with my Olam Haba, and believe my Olam Haba is worth something. Okay? That's you people. I sign a paper with Olam Haba that Hashem loves you, you're his only son, and the world can't exist without you. Fact one, fact two, fact. If that doesn't put a smile on your face, I rest my case.
Next question. Go ahead. Loud? Or I'll help you.
But just 1 second, you should know that there's maybe 3% of people walk into my recovery center, do they say, I love God? They only say that 3 months after, 4 months after. I found God, I found God. I just want to go over and take the whole room, but nobody in the beginning says, I love God. It's normal to go through the process, but after 2 or 3 months, I found God, I found my Creator, but never right away. It never happens right away. Sometimes it takes 2 months to get the guy to understand a little bit. So, but eventually, they do get that. Eventually, that is the goal, but never right away. We can't convince people in 20 minutes to love God. Go ahead.
When does a mother's responsibility end with her children? If she's trying to teach them Torah and teach them mitzvahs, but they keep rebelling, especially in the teenage years, how much does she have to push, and where does her responsibility end?
Go ahead.
Okay, here's the thing. When parents try to push and the kids are off, you don't push. Chinuch is parental example. If you live it, you can give it. If you don't live it, you can't give it. What's parental example? Your kids are looking, what does Abba do the first thing in the morning? Does he open up a Gemara Baba Kama? Does he go in the backyard and talk to Hashem? Or does he open up the Wall Street Journal with a cup of coffee? If he opens up the Wall Street Journal, that's exactly what they want to do. If Abba gets upset when a glass is broken or something, there's a $5 monetary loss, but he doesn't get upset when, okay, something that the mitzvah wasn't done exactly right. The kids are analytic, and kids hate hypocrisy. It's not, don't do me what to do. I can't see it. Kids want to see if the parents are real deal. If mom lights Shabbos candles, and she's got a smile on her face and tears in her eyes, and she's begging Hashem for the good of her husband, for the good of her kids, one by one, and they look, mom is so gorgeous. She's so attached to Hashem. I want to be just like mom. When the kids go to shul, and they hear dad talking about the stock market, what? In shul? Or dad takes his cell phone to the stock market, in Milish Manaisre, he's looking at his Twitter or his email or whatnot. They see that's more important than Hashem. No, we don't even take our cell phone. Okay, so look in, how does mom serve Hashem? How does dad serve Hashem? Don't say a word to the kids. You want to educate kids first, we have to educate ourselves. When we educate ourselves, the kids are going to fall just into place. Don't have to say a word. And if you say a word with 21st century adolescents, they're going to do the exact opposite.
Same thing. Demonstrate, don't instruct. I mean, that's the key.
I have one question.
Yes. Is he permitted? Yeah, of course. Okay.
You said that we should serve Hashem. Do
Zerizut.
What if we like
excitement?
Excitement, though, I got you.
Excitement, not fast. Excitement.
Quick. It means that we can do things even slow. You know, like somebody's excited to do things slowly.
Okay. Come talk. Like Joe Biden, right? Okay, good. He's also very slow. We can see what we're there. Hashem should give you guys all a bracha. You should have a lot of hatzlacha tomorrow night. B'ezrat Hashem. For the city. Don't copy Florida. Go ahead. No, don't copy Florida.
And the Q&A or 3 more?
Two more.
Yeah, we'll do 5 more and that'll be it. Right?
Yes.
Thank you for the night. I have a quick question. So I heard Rav Shalom Arush speak about that when Moshe Rabbeinu commanded us to pray, he told us, he didn't hand us Sidurim. He gave us, he said, speak from the heart to what to do, essentially. If somebody is at the point where they're doing an hour of what to do every single day, I've spoken to them about this before, but is like, why is it still a necessity for that person to
pray from a siddur?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is for the recording, if people are doing an hour of personal prayer, are they still required to read from a text to pray and connect to God through? Right?
I mean, personally, I get you. I understand. My sessions are much more powerful than the Siddur, but you still have to follow, the order of the Knesset Yisrael. But definitely, I see 10 times more energy from my Hizbut than I do from the Siddur. 100%. I think if you get to that level,
Can you just define hisbodedus for that?
hisbodedus is having a conversation with God, my power hour, that's what I call it. That I definitely get tremendously much more emotions, and I put music on, it's a whole different world. But I still do the other three prayers. But I don't get the same energy as the other ones. I can't compare it. But it is required, and it does improve the prayer, though.
Well, there's something else. We're different. I'm different than Gedalia. I'm just as fired up in the Shema Yisrael as I'm in Hebrew dude. Okay? When you come to Shema Kuleinu and ask what you want, Choynein Adat. You know what it means, Choynein Adat? What's the Prophet Ishayahu says on the opening, he says, Amilu Bonan. Talk about all the destruction, the first temple destruction. And he said, why all this? My people didn't observe. What are you saying? People go through, thanks for the grub, yay Hashem. That's their Birkat HaMazon. Okay? But the same with the Shemona Yisrael. Choynein Adat. Hashem's giving me my brain power, my understanding. Hashem, Choynein Adat. Give me the understanding that it should put divine understanding. You'd understand to feel that you're right there with me. Hashem, Hashivenu Avinu L'Sarasecha. You come to do tshuva you'll say one other thing the Rav Shalom will tell you. Rav Shalom will tell you, for somebody that says Shmona Yisrael, this is Rav Shalom's words, for someone that says Shmona Yisrael with Kavona, there's no difference between Yom Kippur and every day of the week. Because he's a tshuva every single day. You have daily vitamins. Your Shmona Yisrael is a multiple vitamin, the different parts of your neshama thing, and that is why the Anshe Knesset Gdolah, they codify the Shemona Yisrael the way it is, because this is what the neshama needs. Now maybe you cognizantly, you're not there, you're not wherever your neshama. Neshama's a part of Hashem. You say, what I need, but we give what our neshama needs. When you say every single word, and you focus on every single word, wow, it becomes with the difference that it's no different between people doing. Okay, don't put the music on, and sometimes feel like dancing, but don't dance. Because one thing, tone it down. Don't put on a show for people, and you keep the fire. And then you do the energy. You go out in the field. Do whatever you want.
Go ahead, Lav.
That one I do spend a lot of time.
If somebody's already in a bad place, in a parent or a friend, how can they have a responsibility? What should they do to help get that person to where they need to be? What's their obligation for somebody else, if it's not for yourself? If you're a parent and the kid's already way gone in a bad place, if they're already.
So what's the question?
So what's the exact question?
What can she do to make
The kid better?
make it better? Not make it better. What can she do for herself, I guess.
How she feels better, or what she can do for the kid?
Can she help him?
If the person is not really functioning properly.
Right. First, can she help the child?
Maybe in a deep depression, your family member that's in a deep depression.
This is your feeling.
The mother or the child.
The mother of the child is in a deep depression. What could she do? Again, the number one thing is accept the situation. Because without any time we're fighting a situation, that's what's causing the suffering. Let's say we all have people in our family that are not happy, and we can't change people. We can only send them love and pray for them. But when you're dealing with people with low self-esteem, they usually don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that they're miserable. Why are you being miserable? They already know they're miserable. So I would say give them space, pray for them, offer a third-party counselor, maybe a therapist, and pray for them. But you don't push your agenda, because they're not going to want to deal with you.
Go ahead.
Good. Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you for coming to stand.
No problem. Shechianu.
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm cryptically.
Be funny, it's okay. It's almost 11 o'clock and we're in Staten Island. That's pretty funny. That is extremely funny.
What advice would you give Cinderella?
What advice would I give Cinderella?
There's a reason I'm asking.
To get out of Disney, first of all. To get out of Disney. That's the first thing. What advice would I give Cinderella?
Change the movie.
Yeah, change the movie. Oh, there you go. You got my line. Beautiful. I would tell her to change the movie into seeing the Beauty and the Beast. She's in the wrong movie. Change it to finding the Beauty and the Beast. So if she's looking for the missing Louboutin, missing shoe, that's never going to come. She's going to meet somebody else, and she's got to see the good points in that beast. Change the movie, I would say.
Find Nemo.
Huh?
Find Nemo.
Right. Define Cinderella. A spoiled kid? What's the story? No, I'm like 40, almost 45 years old. I don't remember these movies anymore. I do, but they're not watching Cinderella. They're watching other things. Toy Story or something else.
She always does everything to make fun of her. She's always put down.
Oh, she's always put down. Like the Frozen girl, right? Like the Frozen one?
No.
She was like a skin out. She was like a slow. She had bad stuff to say.
Oh, to build her self-esteem. To build her self-esteem. What else could there be? To build her false. I don't know the movie. I'm sorry. There's enough movies already out there. I don't know the movie. Cinderella. What would you tell Cinderella?
That's right.
I told her to get out of Disney first, and then the rest.
The one who's always put down and made fun of and stepped down.
Against her.
Okay.
He's got something.
What's a good point?
2 more questions.
What is she outstanding in? She probably had a great heart. Wow.
Tries to please, good heart, good person, and
Wow.
it's an abusive situation.
Wow.
Self-esteem.
Okay, it's gonna really build her up. Build on that point. Like I told one of the guys, if you're 5'8", you're not meant to play in the NBA. If you're not Miss Twiggy, then you're not meant to be Miss America, and Hashem doesn't want you flaunting your body anyway. If you got a good heart, maybe you get a great guy, and maybe you'll give birth to Mashiach. Go for a good point. Go for a good point. A good heart. Look at this world. It's so good. A girl with a good heart. Look what she can do. Look what she could do. Look at the amazing things she could do.
But how does she deal with her? That's her house. That's her home.
How do you deal with your surroundings that are constantly pushing her down?
Abusive relationships.
Abusive.
She needs therapy. Look, she needs therapy. She needs extensive therapy.
She's supposed to be grateful and say thank you. This is where Hashem.
What's her? How old is she?
How old is she? How old is Cinderella, aka Cinderella?
An adult.
She's an adult?
She's an adult.
It's a whole different story.
Okay.
The Gemara says, Mishnah Makom, Mishnah Mazal. Tell people, if there's one thing, if she has a alternative, or not an alternative. In other words, someone has an abusive boss, but they don't have another job. That means that Hashem has locked them in a situation, now we got to deal with it. Okay? But if someone has an abusive boss, and Hashem sends him 3 job offers somewhere else, Hashem doesn't expect us to be masochists. Okay? If she deals with abusive friends, maybe she's picked the wrong friends. Maybe she picked... Huh?
Family.
Family that's abusive?
Yes.
Okay. Family should learn Shulchan Aruch, that the laws of... Okay. All right. But here's the thing. There is no law. I'll give you an example. I get young people with abusive parents, young adults with abusive parents or parents that mix in with their lives, this and that. And they say, how do I fulfill the commandment of honoring my parents?
Now we're getting towards what.
Okay, good. Okay, so you pray for the parent, but if that parent is abusive, there is no duty to a child to be a masochist. There's no duty to a child, an adult child, to subject himself to abusiveness. And sometimes the parent is abusive to the son-in-law or the daughter-in-law. And the son or the daughter should say, Mom and Dad, you don't speak to my spouse like this, because I have to grow up to 120. And anyone, including Mom and Dad, that speaks to my spouse disrespectfully, we're not going to have dinner together, we're not going to have visits together. And it's not a matter of emotional blackmail. It's just a matter of preventing abuse. If you have a way to prevent abuse, you don't subject yourself to an abusive individual. And a parent doesn't have a right to abuse a child. Parents think child belongs to them. The mitzvah of loving your neighbors yourself, there's a mitzvah in the Torah, a mitzvah called onas dvarim. It is worse than eating pork to cause pain to another Jew. That person eats pork, it's easy, it's fast forgiveness for Shem. But Yom Kippur doesn't help a person for pain to another Jew. You have to forgiveness to the other Jew. Okay? So this young lady, if her parents are tearing her down, and her parents are destroying her self-image, that's...
But sometimes there is a case where you have to review, you have to see the whole case, because there's a lot of times where, she'll tell, if the parent is saying, go get a job, you're abusing me, you're throwing me out. It's very important to go into, get the right therapist, go into the details, family therapist, because sometimes you'll see the story, sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. So this is not all the same. I've seen 50% one way, 50% other way. You need a family therapist, you need group therapy, and you need a common goal, and then the work has to begin, obviously. We'll just take one more.
We're gonna do one more. We'll wrap it up after. We'll talk later.
Again, first you have to stop the storm. First you have to stop the storm. And then once you stop the storm, then you could start, we can't fix the roof when it's raining. There's a time to go build. First you have to get the right instructions, get the right therapist, get the right diagnosis, and then, I've seen tons of times with kids need medication sometimes. Parents need medication. There's a million cases in this story that could go one way or the other, and it's very, I don't want to give you the wrong answer on unlimited facts.
Go ahead, quick.
Last question. Good?
Last question?
Yes.
Okay. It's an inverse question. The question was asked here. So for me, I feel fire when I'm doing Shmoneh Esrei, when I'm doing my prayers, and I, Baruch Hashem, speak to Hashem pretty regularly, but I have a struggle doing it in advance, planning what I do. When I get into what I do, all of a sudden I freeze under the spotlight, don't know what to say, end up just apologizing for everything that I've done wrong, and
Right.
I don't know what to do.
Just some common tips that I can recommend. First, pick a location, pick a time that you're in that space. Because for example, in New York, I try to do it. I got subways, trains, my whole head is all over the place. Timing, going to sleep. There's a lot of gas going on here. So you really need your shuva dat. So pick up first, in order to just get the best effects of this, location, time, frequency. You understand? That in the beginning, that usually opens you up because you're in that same space. Now, usually in time, sometimes when you have nothing to say, Creator of the world, I want to talk to you. You told me how great it is to do this. You told me it could change my whole life. Rav Nachman said it's higher than everything. Please open up my mouth. Another thing I can recommend you is read the 50th Gate by Rav Nassan. He has prayers. Or Tehillim. Anything to warm you up. Just like if you're working out. You can't sometimes work out. Sometimes you got to stretch. Sometimes you got to go on the treadmill a little bit just to get motion. Once you usually get in motion, sometimes I'll go into breathing. Every day depends on the mood, situation, what's happening in my life. No 2 days are the same, so this is not really a cookie cutter thing. No 2 days in your life are going to be the same. Every single day is going to be completely different. There's going to be a new challenge. That's going to be where you approach God. But the whole point of this whole situation is not to score. It's to display your emunah and your belief that this works. Talking to my Creator works, and when I speak things out, I get it out of my system. I don't hold it in anymore. So the whole concept behind this is I can really go to a place where I let it out, and you feel much lighter. Now, if you have nothing to say, breathe, jump, dance, scream. I've done it all. And then sometimes the words come out, sometimes they don't. And then you continue.
Add another ploy. Suppose an angel revealed himself to you. And he said, you've got an hour. You've got an hour to thank me for every gift in life. And what you don't thank me, you can take it away. Wow. Hashem, thank you for my brain. And you better learn anatomy in the bathroom. We can't learn Torah. Cerebellum, cerebrum, patella. Hashem, thank you for my eyesight. Thank you for my cornea. Hashem, thank you. Okay, without that pressure, when I get tongue-tied, and it happens a lot, you fan, by the time you get out to the field, and okay, checklist. We're about to take off. We can't take off. What does a pilot do? Starboard engine, port engine, button, high pressure, low pressure, hydraulic pressure. Hashem, thank you for the eyes. Hashem, thank you for my breathing. Hashem, thank you for my teeth. Hashem, thank. By the time you get to your ribs, Hashem's good. You're going to forget about the thank you. The legs always get left out. That's why persons have knee problems, because by the time they don't get down there. Okay? Because by the time that they're so enamored by thanking an Hashem, wow, look at the gifts I got from Hashem today that otherwise they would take for granted. They go, dude. And that warms you up really quick, the gratitude.